Welcome to Conversations. I'm Muqtedar Khan, your host, and I'm coming to you from Madrid. As I had promised in my last conversation that the next time I spoke to you, it would be from a different continent. I'm right now here in Spain. I spent the whole day today in Toledo, and yesterday, after landing in Spain, I came to Madrid. So please watch this video and don't just listen to it because I'm going to be sticking in some pictures that I took of downtown Madrid. I was in a very beautiful plaza called Plaza Mayor, and so it was very beautiful. And so I took some pictures, and I will be sharing them with you. So there will be kind of a disconnect. So I would be talking about J D Vance or Marco Rubio, but the pictures that you will be seeing are pictures of me walking around in Madrid. And for members only, I will be sharing some videos that I took both in Toledo as well as in Madrid, and I will also later on make a short video about my visit to these beautiful cities once the tour is over and I'm able to sort out the hundreds of pictures that I have taken. So anyway, today what I'm going to do is talk to you about a scandal, a security breach scandal that's been brewing in the United States. Apparently, a reporter from the Atlantic um, Jeff Goldberg was included in in the national security team of Donald Trump's on a signal uh, group, and he was privy to the entire for about a week. He was on this group, which had only 18 people, and most of the people on the group were from the Donald Trump's national security team. And he was privy. He was able to read all the strategies and planning and the targeting and the choice of weapons and the pros and cons of attacking the Houthis. The Trump administration uh, just attacked the Houthis. There were 53 casualties, which included some children too. So this is in retaliation to Houthis attacking ships that are going towards the Suez Canal. But it has raised some very serious questions about the competence of the administration. It has raised questions about the validity of such highly significant national security discussions being done on something like Signal. And is it appropriate to have something to use this mechanism to discuss and plan operations such as basically a military operations. And it also reveals something interesting that not many people picked up, and I will talk to you about that, about the growing importance of J D Vance when it comes to Donald Trump's foreign policy. But before I discuss what happened and also point out to you what its implications are, please subscribe to Conversations, like this video, press the bell icon, and don't forget to share this video with your socio-political network. So basically, about a week ago, Goldberg, who is the editor of The Atlantic, was included in a group called Signal Group. Signal is like WhatsApp. It is also encrypted at both ends, so it's a pretty secure group. He got a request to join by somebody called Walsh, and he later it appears that he was the national security advisor of Donald Trump. And then in that group, it included somebody, TJ, Tulsi Gabbard, JD Vance was also there, somebody called Pete Hegseth, the Secretary of Defense, Ratcliffe, the director of the CIA, and even Miller, the advisor to Donald Trump, was among the 18 people on this group. But what is curious is that none of them noticed that Goldberg, who is a reporter who's quite critical of Donald Trump, and who has also, well, at least from the comments that we hear from the Trump administration, they don't really like the magazine or Goldberg himself, because the magazine and Goldberg were quite aligned with Hillary Clinton in the 2016 elections and subsequently. And Donald Trump basically dislikes both the reporter and the magazine. And like he talks about the Atlantic the way he talks about the New York Times, that this is the declining magazine stuff. Anyway, so basically, he was privy to the entire discussion. Obviously, at first he thought it was a hoax, and then he didn't realize that it was a security breach. He thought maybe there was some deliberate attempt to include him. Uh, so he was obviously a bit perplexed, but he followed through. And then when he saw the attacks happen, he clearly realized that, oh my God, that he was privy to the actual national security conversation that was taking place. And subsequently, the Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, was asked about that conversation, and Pete Hegseth's answer was to basically disparage the reporter and said that he has no credibility, the magazine has no credibility, there was no war plans discussed in that, and that's it. He walked away from the reporters. So Hegseth is obviously confirming that that was indeed a valid group which included them. He's not saying that's not us. We were not in that group. I don't know what he's talking about. Well, all he's saying is that this reporter has no credibility, uh, and we basically it was there were no war plans. I'm sure that Goldberg has taken screenshots of all the discussions. He did leave the group after the attacks happened, but I'm sure he has all the screenshots to validate all his claims. Donald Trump was asked a question by a reporter about what he thought about this appropriateness of using Signal for such high level, basically war and peace decisions by the national security team. And Donald Trump was not aware of that, and he was quite surprised. And in his response, he merely condemned once again the reporter and the magazine. Uh, but what is interesting is the discussion itself. One of the things that came out in the discussion. But before I talk about what it revealed about J D Vance, there was also a Senate hearing about this, in which basically Tulsi Gabbard simply refused to answer the question. So there are some clips of Tulsi Gabbard being questioned by the senators, and she didn't respond at all, neither confirming nor denying whether she was that TG on that group, whether that group was indeed a discussion of the national security discussion, etc. But the director of the CIA, Ratcliffe, John Ratcliffe, did answer the question, and he did confirm that it was indeed a signal group and that he was part of. And he went on to say that when he was sworn in as the director of CIA, he was, I mean, the app was uploaded onto his cell phone, and he was informed that it was appropriate for him to use Signal for discussions, planning, and other purposes, except that when official decisions were made, then they had to be taken during official channels. So there's a record of what decision was made, who all were involved in the decision, and why it was made, what the rationale was. So because Signal Group would be kind of off the record and not really very formal, so if there are decisions made during these formal, but apparently it's okay for the CIA uh, uh, senior officers to use Signal to discuss. So a lot of people think that Signal is more, shall we say, more safer than even WhatsApp. Uh, and There are rumors that Facebook has allowed the national security team a backdoor into WhatsApp. I don't know much about that, but there are people who talk about the fact that WhatsApp discussions may not be as secure, but there is still a perception that discussions on Signal are quite secure. But anyway, so this is where this whole discussion is going on. The Republicans are trying to use this uh, to 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 argue that the Donald Trump's administration is basically highly incompetent. And one of the senators who was asking questions to Tulsi Gabbard and to Ratcliffe nearly implied that without actually saying that, but basically saying that you guys are novices, you don't know how to conduct national security, especially intelligence-related high-level stuff. Pete Hegseth was basically a reporter on Fox before he became Secretary of Defense. I mean, he's served in the army, and I think he was a Marine, but not at a very high level. So basically implying that so the Democratic Party is bashing the Trump administration for being either negligent or incompetent. but it's kind of begs the question that why would you have Goldberg on that, and why would Walsh, the national security advisor, include him? Did he send it by mistake? And why didn't anybody check for about a week that this discussion was going on? So that is an important question, which at least the administration should answer internally. Was this just a breach, or just a simple mistake that somebody made, or was this deliberate to give an exposure to the inner workings of the national security team? I'm sure that every reporter wants to be a fly on the wall. You want to sit there and see how decision making. People like me who teach American foreign policy, for us, I mean, something like this would be a bonanza. I mean, the closest we get to is a telephone call that the State Department often makes to discuss scholars and experts. And sometimes we are included on that phone call with the State Department people, but there are lots of people, sometimes 30, 40, 50 people on that discussing and just providing an input. It's like testifying. I've testified to the Senate Foreign Relations Committee or the Armed Services Committee and others. But this is different. This is the principals, the Secretary of Defense, the Secretary of State. Marco Rubio was also there. He was under the tag MAR. Tulsi Gabbard, the Director of National Intelligence, the Director of CIA was also on there. J D Vance, the Vice President. The only person who was missing was Donald Trump, who was not on that group. So this is a big deal. So I hope that we get more details about the discussions as we go forward, unless it's made classified and then we are not allowed to see it. It will be a great teaching moment for people like me. We can tell the students, see, this is how decisions are sometimes made, foreign policy decisions. But what is also interesting in that, at least from what is reported by Goldberg, and you can see this in various reports in the media, that there seems to be a subtle disagreement between J D Vance and Donald Trump on Donald Trump's foreign policy. But what is also interesting is that J D Vance is willing to discuss that with the rest of the principals. So anybody could carry a tale to Donald Trump and say, well, J D Vance thinks he knows better or whatever. But it was quite interesting. So, for example, when the decision was made to attack the Houthis, or the proposal, he said, why are we attacking the Houthis now? Only 3% of America's trade goes through Suez. Why 40% of Europe's trade goes through the Suez Canal? Why are we bailing out Europe again? This is Europe's problem, not our problem. And this is contradicts the messaging that President Trump is sending to Europe, saying we are not going to take care of. Basically, J.D. Vance was trying to imply that while we are trying to send a message to Europe, that Europe needs to take care of its own defenses, and America is not going to come and basically babysit them from a security point of view. This attack on Houthis was more in the interest of Europe than the United States, because it was not impacting the US trade that went through the Suez Canal. So why are we doing this? So that's J.D. Vance's point, that we are sending mixed signals, that maybe we will talk tough, but we will do whatever the previous administrations have done to protect Europe and Europe's interests. Pete Hex's response was basically also very interesting. He said, well, we need to do this because one of the reasons that he gave was that besides sending a signal to Iran, he didn't want Israel to be the first country to act on its own. So that was a bit of, I wish there was more context available to understand what Pete Hex meant by saying, why are we, I don't know, what's he trying to say, that we need to act, otherwise Israel will act before us. So they don't want Israel to attack Houthis, or they don't want to bother them. They're so busy doing great work in Gaza, and so the Trump administration wants to give them a break. I don't know what Pete Hegseth meant, but he did, at least according to Goldberg's reporting of what he read in that discussion. So, but the question remained that there was nothing from Marco Rubio in that was reported. I'm sure if there was anything remarkable, Goldberg would have mentioned it, and he was on TV, and he also published an article in The Atlantic. He's trying to milk it as much as possible, but it does appear that Marco Rubio is getting more and more marginalized. in the foreign policy establishment. And it is J D Vance who is becoming more of a Secretary of State. The toughest message from Donald Trump to Europe was given by J D Vance in Munich. And when it came to basically attacking like a pit bull when Zelensky was visiting the White House, it was J D Vance who stepped up, whether it was planned or whether he did it on his own. But the point was that Marco Rubio was sitting right next to him, played no role in that important meeting. If you saw it, was just Trump and J D Vance. So it does appear that, unlike other vice presidents, J D Vance is has a bigger role in American foreign policy in the Trump administration. And clearly, he is very tough on Europe and does not basically is interested in letting Europe go and Europe be on its own when it comes to Europe's security. So that's, to me, that was the more interesting takeaway, that J.D. Vance is now playing a bigger role than Marco Rubio. Marco Rubio is kind of stuck. He's, I guess, given up his Senate seat in Florida. And now if he were fired or if he were to leave the Trump administration, he would have no job. I mean, of course, he can get jobs in the think tanks, law firms, or whatever, lobby groups, or whatever he want to do, but he won't have a significant voice in the government for the next 3 to 4 years. But it may not be a bad idea for Rubio to leave and start collecting money so that he can campaign uh, and be in a strong position for the 2028 nomination of the Republican Party. But at the moment, I think he is becoming quite insignificant under the Trump administration. So I hope that this short conversation made you think a little about how foreign policy decisions are made and how this administration functions. So don't forget to subscribe to Conversations, like this video, press the bell icon. Don't forget to share it with your social political network. And I hope you really like the photographs that I have shared in this video. I will share some on the community post, and then I will share some videos soon for members only that I have taken of Madrid and Toledo. So until next time, take care. I'm your host, Muqtedar Khan.